Who here hasn't been to space?
Why?
You better not throw up on my ship.
Approaching jump in 3, 2, 1.
About is Marvel fans being fatigued, and again, this is something we discussed. This is something we kind of talked about, and I, for one, think that Marvel fans are fatigued because it's the so when I have this conversation before I read the article, when I have this conversation with regular MCU fans, people that watch the MCU, you know, and that's it. They always say, I haven't, especially the people I've been talking to lately, like at work, that people that work with me. Some of them haven't even seen Multiverse of Madness. None of them have seen Phase 4 content because they're like, it's daunting, it's scary. I don't know if I want, how many movies is it? How many shows is it? And doesn't this all connect? And like, it's scary to a lot of regular MCU fans that don't want to jump in. But this is coming from the Direct. And it says, according to a new study, fan fatigue for Marvel movies seems to be setting in faster than with DC. Yikes. Both Marvel and DC have been, well, DC hasn't even been on screen, but both Marvel and DC have been at the top of the movie world for well over a decade now, with comic book movies being the biggest / most consistent box office draw currently out there. This has been evident as MCU and DCU films have set atop most anticipated list for years, with these superpowered adventures lining the pockets of Disney and Warner Brothers handsomely. However, talk of superhero fatigue has been present as of late. Directors like Sam Raimi have come out saying superhero overdose is a problem amongst creatives who are closely involved in these sorts of projects. And the likes of Dune's Denis Villeneuve, I can never say his last name, Dennis, have said that these films are turning audiences into zombies. While fans of these customed blockbusters have come out in support of their favorite heroes, it turns out there may be some validity in these thoughts of fatigue setting in. Or at least that is how some new numbers are to be believed. So this is the quote here. This is from Vanity Fair. According to a new study conducted by Fandom via Vanity Fair, over 1/3 of Marvel's fans are getting fatigued with the MCU, compared to only 1/5 of DC fans saying the same about the DCU. The study took a deep dive into the comic book movie fandom, drawing on 5,000 entertainment and gaming fans between the ages of 13 and 54 years, as well as fandom's online platforms and wikis. So then the last thing here that it says, if it presented a few key findings, including some major differences between Marvel and DC fans. It found that 81% of those who closely associate with Marvel are more likely to seek out any and every MCU project, whereas only 67% of DC fans would do the same for their respective movies and shows. The DC fan base is more likely to consume TV or film-based projects around a specific superhero, with 57% of DC's fans being focused on one or two characters compared to 38% of Marvel's fans. The study assumes that this is the main reason why 36% of MCU fans are feeling superhero fatigue, simply because they are more inclined to take in everything the franchise produces. Meanwhile, 20% of the DC fans say they feel the same effect, likely because they are more likely to see less, simply because they are only following one specific character. Fandom found that each fan base could be broken down into 4 segments: the advocates, the culturalists, the flirts, and the internationalists. Advocates are those who are most embedded in the particular brand. These are audience members who are deeply invested in the IP to the point that they find the brand makes up a part of who they are. Internationalists are a bulk of each particular fan base, being those who won't seek everything out and can be swayed by marketing or critic reception. This group will most likely see a new content within the first 2 weeks or so, but do not have to be there for opening day. So culturalists are the heavily influenced by the buzz around the particular release. This group sees these experiences as opportunities to connect with friends and family rather than the IP itself. And lastly, the flirts are those who will dabble here and there. They will come and go from franchises, IP, taking things in when they have time rather than what the world around them is telling them to do. Marvel was proven to have more advocates and internationalists than DC, with the two groups making up 66% of the Marvel fan base, while the number is only 61% for DC. I definitely can somewhat agree with that. Like, for me personally, this break we're about to get before Quantumania, I can take that break. Especially after, again, seeing Wakanda Forever. I can take that break. The break is, for me, is needed. I understand we have the Guardians of the Galaxy special that's coming out, and for the people that have seen it, have said nothing but good things about it. But there is that conversation, again. Is superhero films doing too much? Is Marvel doing too much? You know, we've had the conversation that it's become quality over quantity. You know, it's become quantity over quality, where they are not putting as much effort into the quality of these shows that we watch and these movies that we watch, and they're putting more emphasis on getting this out because of the timeline, This has to, you know, that several people always come in and say, well, they couldn't have pushed Wakanda Forever back because X, Y, and Z had messed up this. And that's not a lie. They could have pushed it back, but that is a factor as to one of the reasons why they didn't want to push it back, because it does mess up a timeline. So I'm sure pushing back Blade we saw it did hurt. It pushed back just not only Blade, but it pushed back other projects too, which then takes Marvel off of their regularly scheduled programming. So with that happening, and then like I said, you've got fans that are then coming into spaces, like I guess that would be the culturalists, or the flirts rather, that are coming in and they're viewing things here and there, and not. Those are the fans that I'm having conversations with that have said things like, it's too daunting, it's scary, I don't want to jump into this, doesn't this connect to that, how does this connect to that, who the hell is this character, what's a She-Hulk? These are actual conversations I've had with people that are not heavy DC or heavy MCU fans. So with that conversation being had, obviously films like No Way Home are always going to put asses in the seats, because that's a familiar name. That's Peter Parker. We've all seen Tobey Maguire's original Spider-Mans. Most of us have seen Andrew Garfield's, and for those hardcore MCU fans, everybody's seen Tom's. So you get a film like No Way Home, of course you're going to get asses in the seats. You get a film like Infinity War, you're going to get asses in the seats. But when you're doing shows like Moon Knight and She-Hulk, and not to say that I dislike She-Hulk, I didn't dislike Moon Knight, I didn't dislike Miss Marvel or anything like that, but when you're doing those type of shows, you look at the viewership for those shows, was not as high as it was for WandaVision. Why? Wanda was more of a familiar face. Loki's a familiar face. These are faces that people, whether or not they view the MCU in its entirety or not, these are people that know these, that Wanda and Loki, as we've talked about before, have become household names. So these are people that may not have known them prior to the MCU, but have fallen in love with them due to the MCU. And by falling in love with them, that those two shows boosted in views. You got Moon Knight, didn't do too hot in views. You got Miss Marvel, definitely didn't do hot in views. She-Hulk, no one gave a flying fuck. So I don't know. Is it really a thing where, I mean, the poll numbers don't lie. So is it really a thing, though, where we are starting to see an issue where superhero films, like, I mean, Sam Raimi even said it, superhero overdose is a problem. Is it a problem? I personally don't necessarily. That's just me, though, because this is the shit I love. This is the spaces I want to be in and have conversations about. I don't necessarily see it as a problem, but I do see the pushing out quantity over quality a problem.
Yeah. I think that's really where the fatigue settles in, to be honest, because I don't think anybody complains about whenever they announce new stuff. Like when we sit here for the expos and D23 and SC stuff like that, it's like we have the viewers where we know that they want to see like what they're coming out with and stuff, but it's just the fact that I think we're all just tired of getting what we want, and then they diss it, like Moon Knight. Disappointment. Yeah. They gave us She-Hulk, She-Hulk is a good character. If they would have wrote her a bit better, I don't know what exactly they needed to do, but that last episode just fucked the whole show up for me. So it's just like, I don't know how they expect to. How they used to do is they'd cameo how they did with Black Panther. They throw them in Civil War, and if we liked them, which they knew we would, they'd go on the storyline. But it's like, I don't know how they expect to throw all these characters in the same movie now if nobody really even liked their TV shows. Or it's like, we like Amon Vanali and we like whoever played She-Hulk. I forgot her name and everything, but it's like
Tatiana Maslany.
Yeah, it's like, how can you throw together a movie and be like, come watch them together on the big screen when it's like none of us really even enjoyed their TV shows and stuff like that. So it's just, I don't see how they come. Or I don't see how we wouldn't be fatigued whenever they keep coming out with stuff that just keeps disappointing us. It's like, because we're excited for all the stuff they came out with. Like whenever we heard we're getting Moon Knight, excited on here. It's like we were getting the views on the videos and everything, but it's just like the writers, the studio keeps disappointing because, like you said, they're on these timelines and stuff like that. But it's like, with DC, I mean, we can't really complain about much because there's no like expectations for DC, in my opinion. But the thing with Marvel is there's always going to be so many heavy expectations that it's like, of course, we love these spaces and everything, but I mean, I understand the fatigue as well because I mean, Multiverse of Madness was supposed to be my highlight of the year, to be honest. Like, it was supposed to be one of my top 3 moments of the year, and it wasn't. Like, I'm just tired of being let down. Like, I mean, we already knew Black Panther would kind of be a letdown, but we were expecting Love and Thunder to be good, if not good, decent. Disappointed. It's just like, I don't know if we're fatigued with the superheroes. I think we're fatigued with the actual business decisions and the decisions that the writers make. How
lackluster it is. That's when it becomes fatigue.
Yeah, that's what
things are lackluster.
Yeah, it's like you never complain about something when you're getting good. Like when you it's like when you get to the NBA playoffs. You know, you don't really complain about the games because they're good games and stuff. But I mean, like. So we were getting the quality movies in phases 1 through 3 and everything, but it's just like they took their time on those and everything. There was nothing to complain about. I don't know if it's because we got bigger gaps between everything, but I mean, it's just easy to complain with the stuff they do now, releasing stuff week to week. I mean, they mess up at least on one slight thing and everything, so it's easy to complain about little stuff. And then, I mean, I always say the little things add up. Like, that's really what it is. Like, it's just been a fuckload of little things that Marvel has not done right. And it's just, I think it's pissing us all off to the point where it's like, we know we're supposed to be getting into a better saga with Kang and with Fantastic Four, X-Men and everything. So it's just like, we want to get past all this shit. And it's kind of tired that they can't, like, give us anything decent.
Right. Yeah, and not just that. I mean, I had the conversation too the other night when I was getting my haircut. Had a conversation with the guys that were in the just other guys. Because my friend, as I told you guys, one of my best friends. He's the one that he cuts my hair. He lives across the street from me, and his barbershop. He has a shop in his garage, and so there was 3 boys that were there that I always talk with. They watch, so shout out you guys. You guys know who you are. And they are not comic fans. They've never picked up a Marvel comic. They never picked up a DC comic, but they like these heroes due to the things that they've seen out before the MCU, and obviously the MCU being the monster that it is. But I asked them, do you guys like, because we were talking about the MCU, we were talking about Wakanda Forever, and I told them my thoughts on Wakanda Forever because they were going to see it that night, and I was like, I'm not trying to make y'all not go see the film, but that's just how they were like, damn. It's like, I'm like, bro, I'm just letting you know. So you can go see it if you want to, but I'm just letting you know. But then we started talking about other things from Phase 4, and they started naming off some of the shows, and they named, like, he was like one. They all said, because they're brothers, they all 3 said, we tried to do Moon Knight, but we got out of it because I didn't get it. I didn't understand what was going on, things like that. And then they said, I don't even know who that character is. They're like, I didn't even watch She-Hulk. I didn't watch Miss Marvel. What else? They said they watched a few episodes of Hawkeye. I always forget about Hawkeye. They did watch WandaVision. They did watch Loki. They didn't watch Falcon and the Winter Soldier. But this is the normal fan conversation that you have with fans when you talk to them about Phase 4. Because everybody was rocking with Marvel up until the end of the Infinity Saga. And that's why a lot of people like to use the argument, well, the MCU peaked after, which I still don't believe that. Yes, Phase 4 has been lackluster, but the MCU has not peaked. And I think that's going to be made so much more clear in February with Quantumania dropping. But it still doesn't, it's still, the conversation's still there with Quantumania because it's like, are regular viewers going to go see Quantumania? Because they have not watched anything in Phase, unless you watched Loki. Obviously they did watch Loki, so you know that Kang is that guy from Loki. Maybe having a connection with Loki could get the average viewer to sit down and or not even just the connection with Loki. A lot of average viewers honestly just love Paul Rudd as Ant-Man.
Yeah.
So that puts asses in the seats. And with it being I think that second trailer, if the second trailer is anything akin to what they showed at D23, I think that trailer alone is going to get asses in the seats, because that's the trailer I thought they should have showed first.
I mean, Marvel really needs to hit on the Guardians of the Galaxy special and leave us on something.
About it.
I know I've seen the reviews on everything, but I'm saying they were like, to just the common audience, they really need to hit on that, just simply because it's what we're leading into Quantumania. If nobody likes that Christmas special or anything, like that's gonna put numbers on Quantumania, just simply because they're like, Marvel ended the year poorly, like, in which they really did in terms of what it was. Love and Thunder, She-Hulk, and then we got Werewolf by Night special, which was good, and then we got Black Panther. And then if for the Christmas special bombs, it's not like 4 in a row. That's not good. But it's like, I hope that they start to realize that what they're doing isn't sustainable. I don't think it's just not. You got to think about quality over quantity at all times when it comes to stuff like this, because you can put out as much as you want, but I mean, if it's not good and people, it's just gonna continue to take hits to your business.
Yeah,
like,
and
no one wants to continue to watch week-to-week shit TV shows.
No.
Or no one wants to watch 3 weeks of good TV shows and then, like, 6 subpar weeks, and then the last week you just waste your whole 9-10 weeks. Like, imagine we go to Daredevil and all 18 weeks of that are just disappointing. Or
well,
13
they would have
weeks.
They would have to shut down.
I'm just saying, like, 13 weeks of it are good, and then the last 5. I'm just saying, like, they need to start getting the shit right that they're doing, because the shit that's coming up is important. And not... They don't have any intro stories left that I can think of or anything. And then, so what they need to do is just start thinking of what they're going to do in terms of getting Armor Wars together, because I think that's after Quantumanium, right? Because that's
I don't know when Armor Wars is. I don't even think it's slated.
They pushed it back.
Is Armor Wars wasn't even talked about at like D23 or SDCC, because at that time it wasn't.
No,
a movie.
they're not.
It was still a TV show at that time.
I'll look that up here in a minute. Yeah, they did switch it to a movie, but I thought that's because they were working on it. But the things that they're working on, they're getting into the 3, 4, or the end of the phase parts where it's like, let's start getting into the actual plot. Like the TV shows and the movie, we haven't.
That's the
you
problem.
can say, like, when we think of Multiverse of Madness, it's like, okay, the people who like that movie, they like the movie because of Wanda. But it's like, when you watch Love and Thunder, the people who like that movie like the movie. I couldn't tell you why. But it's like, none of those movies or TV shows have given us a storyline of a starting point plot outside of Loki.
But see, that's what I'm saying. That's the problem.
Like, we have Endgame, and then to start the new saga for the plot, we have Loki, and nothing matches up with that.
And that's the problem. At the end of Iron Man, you had Nick Fury show up and say, "I want to talk to you about the Avengers Initiative." I believe what film was it that Thanos first showed up in? Fine, I'll do it myself. Was that No, it wasn't Ultron. It wasn't Phase 3. I forget what movie Thanos first showed up in.
End of a Guardians movie?
No, we saw him before Guardians. I want to say we saw him before Guardians. I could be wrong.
Was it Avengers? Was it Avengers?
It was Avengers, because Loki. Duh. Yes.
Oh,
Avengers.
yeah.
It was Avengers. Yes, Avengers 1. I'm sorry. Yes, Avengers, Loki, the whole thing there. That was the difference. You showed us within Phase 1 of where we're going.
Now, you can make the argument, well, they kind of showed you where we're going in Loki with,
Kang, Immortus, He Who Remains, whichever one he was. He Who Remains. But with the first phase, we knew we were heading toward the Infinity Saga. We were heading. That's where we were going. With this, there's no direction. Marvel. Kevin Feige has come out and said, "Oh, it's going to be made so much more clear as we get closer." It ain't more clear for me. I don't know if that's. I don't know if that's like going to be with Quantumania that it's going to be made more clear. But as it stands right now, there's so many side stories going on. I don't know where the fuck we're going.
And I don't know.
I know we're going to Kang. I know we're going to Secret Wars, but these side stories, this shit doesn't connect. It doesn't add up.
And I don't know how you take the path to connect them either, because it's just like they're so different. Like, I don't know how you're gonna connect even when we talk Kid Avengers and everything. I don't know how you're gonna connect all, just because they took such a broad approach to introducing all of them as characters. I don't know. I think they really messed up on introducing some characters how they did, and then another thing is they really sold on all their post-credit scenes. They went from making story connecting post-credit scenes and end credit scenes to giving us pizza pop.
kind of like what Dougie Fresh just said. It
Fucking
doesn't feel
pizza
as
bro.
connected anymore. It feels a lot more like
Individual
the comics, different
writers.
stories you don't have to watch with big events. Yeah, and see that I hate. Like, don't get me wrong. I know everybody has their issues with John. I personally like John. I have my issue. I don't always agree with John, but I do like John as a person. I like him. I think John is the blueprint when it comes to the type of show that, you know, YouTube. His YouTube channel is undeniably successful. Let's put that there. But one thing I hate that John says is I wish Marvel would do more one-off films. Why is everything got to be connected? I hate when people say that.
Yeah.
And the reason I hate that is because that's what the MCU is. It's supposed to be connected. Everything is. I don't want a one-off. Why would I give a fuck about a one-off film that has nothing to the wider MCU that you've already created? We're 30-something movies in, 8 series or something in, and you want a one-off film that has nothing for anything to do with any of the shit.
I was gonna say,
why is that compelling?
Elite ass one-off movie, but it's like I don't understand why you would want that. Not, I mean, the thing we've all liked about, I'm pretty sure everyone in the comments, us too, we've all liked about Marvel the most is whenever we get those heroes on screen together. The dialogue of heroes on screen together is one of my favorite things about Marvel. Just like the screen time with the Guardians in Infinity War when Rocket and Groot are running around with Thor.
Yeah.
Like just memorable
That's what I'm
dialogue
saying,
and shit
bro.
like that. It's just like
The connective tissue.
but it's like it's not even
want that.
connective tissue at that point because it's like I don't even care about the story. I just like seeing characters interact with each other in their different
that's what I'm
stories.
saying though. Even that, I would add that into connective
Yeah.
tissue because it's just like,
Just different personalities and shit. I mean, like you pay all these actors and shit. I mean, like imagine how much more money you'd make if you put them on screen together and stuff. I don't know why.
I mean, look at No Way Home.
Yeah.
Look at No Way Home. Look at the first Avengers film. Look at Infinity War. Look
I mean,
at
as much
Endgame.
as we might hate
Civil
on
War.
Multiverse of Madness with all it
Age of
did
Ultron.
box office numbers with how many people it put in there and stuff. So I mean, like
Yeah.
they should be able to tell that whenever that's the more the merrier. Honestly, I don't know why you want to keep taking heroes away and then keep giving us solo stories. Like I personally don't care about a Miss Marvel solo story. I liked it
don't.
because I liked Iman Vennali.
Yeah, that's
the only reason.
That's what it was. It was her personality.
I don't
as
care
the
about a
character.
She-Hulk. You giving me a law show that's not even a law show, so now it's kind of just a show about
law
Jennifer
comedy
Walters or something. I don't care about that. I care about Falcon. I care about Bucky. I don't care about them running around trying to whatever the plot line of that show was. I don't care about. It's just like they haven't given us anything storyline wise to give a fuck about. It's just
No.
here are these new characters. I hope you like them. And then here in a little bit, we're going to introduce them all together. And even though if you didn't like them, hopefully you like them on screen together. I don't know what their plan is with that, but
Yeah, I'm not sure. And you know, to what Jinx just said, Eternals was a one-off and no one cared. But I also want to touch on Joshua Allen's super chat, which we appreciate so very much, my brother.
yes, thank
Said
you.
Phase 4 is the experimental phase to me. IDK. You know, Phase 4 is akin to Phase 1. Like, let's not all like, bro. Come on now, let's be real. Phase 1 was not like the hot shit. Like it had good shit. Like Iron Man, great. That first Cap was good. That first Thor, it was good. It was okay. Dark World, oof. But like some of the shit that came out in that first phase, like it wasn't like that first phase was also slow setting up.
It
Now,
wasn't
that's
like
not-
the third
yeah,
phase or
and
fourth
that's
phase.
not me like giving Phase 4 like a, because I feel like even though these are new characters, you still should have like how do you top what you did in Phase 1? You do it with Phase 4 because it's your new introductory phase. So you top Phase 1 with Phase 4. How do you top Infinity War and Endgame with Secret Wars, Kang Dynasty? Like, because you've heard the Russo brothers saying like, I don't know, Endgame is peak Marvel stuff. Feige obviously wants this to be bigger and better each time they touch the screen or they put anything on screen. But when it comes to Eternals, like the Jinx said, it being a one-off, Eternals is one of those ones where they fucked up and it should have been a series. I've said that since day one. You had 10 new characters that you were introducing. If you would have made a 45-minute episodes, maybe 9 episodes, maybe 10, I don't know, to where you can more.
Daredevil getting 18.
I mean, hell, yeah, Daredevil's getting 18, but where you can more explain the Eternals, and not just that. Yes, you had Ajax mentioning Thanos. You had, them mentioning Steve Rogers being gone.
I don't know, because we got a lot of new people here, but I was one who enjoyed the Eternals from the jump.
I did not. Not until my 16th view.
I enjoyed the Eternals, but it's like
And it's still just okay.
all the characters and everything, but it's just like I didn't enjoy. It's like none of their interactions are memorable or anything. Like outside, like one of the only things that bring that movie together was Makari and Druig. That was like the only relationship that really stood out. I don't know why Icarus and Circe's felt weird, and then Gilgamesh's and Thena's felt. I don't like how they did Thena. It felt like they rushed her to be dumb just because she was in a movie or some shit. It's just like they had to rush every character, and because it was a movie. Like when you have 10. I mean, essentially you have 10 main characters. I don't see how you try to give them 2 hours of screen time and try to tell 10 different stories. Yeah. Because that's really what the, like, if you introduce 10, but that's what it's like. If you introduce 10 Eternals, you need 10 different stories. It's just like you need to, like you said, you need a series for that.
I never understood it being a film. I didn't. I was like, why is this a film? You are introducing 10 new characters who the MCU fandom have no idea about who they are.
And then didn't even use,
even in Marvel Comics, the Eternals aren't widely popular. You're introducing characters that no one really gives a fuck who they are. If you want people to care, you should have eased them into a series, bro. I don't even know if people would have tuned in for it. That's what I'm saying. Even if it was a series, but people have tuned in for... People didn't tune in for Moon Knight, they know who he was. People didn't tune in for She-Hulk, they know who he was. So maybe they did make the right decision in putting that shit in theaters, because would people have tuned in for a 9... There's 10 of them, so let's say 10. For a 10 episode, 12 episode type series for Eternals.
But was I don't know, was Eternals made a movie just specifically so we could see Celestials on the big screen and know that they can do that and everything? Because, I mean, think about if they wouldn't have had the time to do all that shit if they would have made it a TV show. They wouldn't have had the budget
they wouldn't have the budget either, like, for sure, yeah. to pull in, to show... The might of Arishem. They definitely,
because I don't know. I mean, I hopefully they're not leaving Eternals out of their storyline and everything, because that should be a huge point in our storyline of this nigga just sticking out the ocean right now. I just don't.
And then I mean, there's so many ramifications that still the Eternals play in. I mean, we saw the Quantumania trailer with the same designs from like their armor that they wear in some of Kang's technology and things.
Yeah,
not only
Fastos.
That, you've got what's his name? I forget. Help me, chat. I forget which celestial is sticking out of the ocean.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Fastos. Black.
No, not Fastos.
Yeah, who is that's what I
forget his name.
But it's not.
But then you've also got Arishem, who shows up at the end and said he's going to come back to judge the world. Like, this is what I mean when I say there's so many. Like, what does this mean? Like, what does Arishem
coming back?
Yes, but what does it mean that he's coming back? Like, what does that mean for the wider MCU? Why is no one talking about it? Why is no one talking about how a big fucking Celestial came out of nowhere? And you could say, well, the 616 has been through a lot. They have, but no one is talking about a Celestial sticking out of the ocean. Why Namor wasn't talking about it? Don't know. No one's talking about a Celestial being... A gigantic being descending upon Earth saying, I'll be back to judge you, motherfuckers. Yeah. No one's talking about that. Like, that's what I mean when I say there's so many different stories going on in the MCU. What does all of this mean? Where are you going? And I know Feige has said it's going to be made clear. Bro, when? Quantumania, that's the only time I can think that you would make it more clear. Because like Gray even said down one of his other comments, we haven't even seen anything... We haven't even seen basically the ramifications of what happens with Loki. I get it. We're going to get Loki season 2. We got to go through all these other things in between then. But
why is no one mentioning?
Yeah, but no one's mentioning shit, bro. That's what I'm saying. Like in the Infinity Saga, we had them like these things were mentioned. Like let's go back to Age of Ultron when Thor said he left in the middle of Age of Ultron. Why? Because he's like, someone's playing with the time stone. Someone's playing an intricate game with us, and he's like, I got to go out there and figure out. That was connective tissue to. We've seen different stones being placed, different stones being played with. We saw Thanos put his hand in the gauntlet and say, fine, I'll do it myself. We saw Thanos in the first Avengers. You know, like. All of that stuff we knew connected and was leading to Infinity War. But this, I know where we're going. We all know where we're going. But how are you connecting all of this? That's my biggest question. So it's just like...
But that's the thing too. I mean, the other day we talked about the Thunderbolts and everything. But if we have so many side stories going on, we're only introducing more. We're gonna have General Ross as president, then we're gonna have Secret Invasion going on, and then we're gonna have Val doing whatever she's doing with the CIA, head of CIA, running the Thunderbolts or whatever she's doing. It's just like, I mean, are they doing too much? Like, do they just need to lock in? Do they need to lock in on one thing? It's just like, I don't know. I feel like, I don't know. I saw it in the comments earlier, but I mean, I know another big reason is Chapek being back there, and it's like, it's a money decision for him. I mean, he figures the more he puts out, the more money he makes, which may be true. I mean, but it just sucks for Feige to see like how, or for us to see how bad production has really gotten and how worse it's slowed down or even looked on screen and everything. And it's just like, I don't remember a time on Twitter through Phase 4 or pre and Endgame or anything where the memes were like shitting on Marvel or anything. Like all the memes were like of Thanos and everything, like just actually funny shit. But now it's just like people complain about VFX, people complain about CGI, complain about plot, complain about stories, complain about characters. It's just like, I don't know.
Yeah, they're in a very interesting position. The last thing
Doctor Strange is doing his own thing with incursions.
Yeah, see, there's another story I forgot about. You caused an incursion. You're gonna help me fix it. What does that mean? Like what? Like I know what that means, but like, how is all of this connecting? Because that was clearly, I don't know, man. I don't know. These are questions I've had outside of even reading this article. Like I've talked to myself about, like where are we going with some of these stories that are going on in the MCU right now? I've even heard the theory that I completely disagree with, and I pray to God this ain't the theory. This ain't what's happening. I've seen people saying that all of these events are not happening in 616, which is stupid if you think that. I'm sorry. But all these events aren't happening in 616. That this is happening in different universes, and that these universes... And where this is happening in these universes are going to collide with our universe and incursions. That's how these characters are going to get brought into the 616. No. And the reason I say no to that, and not just no to the idea, but no, that's not happening. And you could say, well, how do you know it's not happening? Well, because the evidence has been there. Like, the mention of Steve Rogers by the Eternals, that shit wasn't going on in a different universe. And I've seen people saying Eternals is happening in a different universe. No, the fuck it's not. Why would Black Knight, why would Kit Harington ask her, where were you when Thanos? Where were you when... And you could say, well, there was Thanos in other universes because we've seen 838. But she mentioned... Sprite mentioned, now that Captain Rogers is no longer the leader of the Avengers, you can't tell me that happened in 838. You can't tell me that happened in 90210 or wherever the fuck else.
They're planning on introducing Blade in 6162 and hearing his voice at the end.
Right, we heard exactly. That's another one. So the idea that this shit is happening in different universes, I think is a very weird theory. Yeah. But no, I also don't believe it. Like, nah, that's not happening. But I want to read this last part here from them. And they said, are people really getting tired of superheroes? Seeing these numbers may shock some people, especially those who are still as pumped as ever to head out to the theaters to turn on their favorite streamers, to take in the next comic book epic. But it does make a bit of sense. Like anything, eventually the superhero movies trend will fall out of fashion. The business of Hollywood is critical. At some point or another, the bubble will have to pop. Interesting. And the MCU and DCU will likely have to go the way of spaghetti western or big budget musical. Fads pass. However, it doesn't feel like that is going to happen, at least in the near future. Both Marvel Studios and DC Studios have to be precise and aware that this isn't going to last forever, as much as they want it to. The key to extending the lifespan of this wave or genre film will be the studios continuing to push the envelope. That's what Nate Moore said. And these high-key ranking executives know that. It's fascinating to see the disparity or fatigue stats between Marvel and DC fans, though. And it makes a lot of sense as why the MCU fan base as a whole may be getting a little more tired. More tied than those on the DC side. Of things. MCU fans have had plenty to eat in recent years with an abundance of content to enjoy from year to year. This has not been the same with DC or Warner Brothers. It's only just now starting to roll out plans to one day saturate the marketplace as Marvel Studios has.
One thing is certain, though, the end of the comic book movies may come someday. That day is still far off on the horizon. I agree with the last sentence there. That day is still far off on the horizon. I don't believe, as much as fatigued as people are, I don't believe that the MCU is about to be like, I've seen some people saying, do they reboot after Secret Wars? No, I don't think so. And again, the only reason I say that is just the evidence that was presented when they purchased the rights to use Secret Wars and Kang Dynasty and all that. They also purchased the Eternity Saga. They're planning on, and not only that, from my understanding, this is something we're going to get it more deeper into tomorrow in the big stream. The X-Men are getting their own saga. And again, we've talked about that. That's really the only way you can do the X-Men. Now they're going to slowly introduce them, and again, I'm going to give you guys something to marinate on. We talked about this, but this is going to be a wider discussion for tomorrow. The X-Men we're about to get in Phase 5, yes, we're going to see our mainstay 616 X-Men, but as I've told you guys, we've talked about this. Feige wants to use the Fox X-Men. He's bringing the Fox X-Men in for Secret Wars. Not just for Secret Wars, they're going to be the heroes that they're going to be brought into the MCU. I don't know if he's used them in Phase 6 or if it's going to be in Phase 5, but he's wanting to bring them in as, for his words, a proper farewell. He doesn't believe that the Fox X-Men got a proper farewell, but then you've got films like Logan out there, in my opinion, was a farewell to Logan and Charles. But then Charles showed up in 838. And now we've got Wolverine, even though it's a different Wolverine and a different Charles, Wolverine is going to be showing up in Deadpool. But from my understanding, and again, we're going to get into it deeper tomorrow, the Fox X-Men are going to play a major role moving towards Secret Wars. So, and that could be one of those things, again, talking fatigue. Why was No Way Home so successful? Andrew Garfield, Tobey Maguire. Obviously, Tom Holland is a star in his own right and can put asses in the seats. Not just that, he is Spider-Man. Spider-Man puts asses in the seats. But when you got 3 Spider-Man, you got your original Spider-Man introduced, the first live-action Spider-Man. Well, not the first live-action Spider-Man, but the first theatrical live-action Spider-Man. Then you've got Andrew Garfield, who was our second theatrical Spider-Man. Then you add Tom Holland in that. Then you're doing some type of crossover film where you're involving the multiverse. That's going to put asses in the seats. But that's another way you can put asses in the seats for people that are fatigued with Marvel? Familiarity. Something that's familiar. Yeah. And that's, sorry, I couldn't get that shit out. Something that's familiar.
Fuck you.
And that is the X-Men. Everybody loves the X-Men. X-Men comics are the most successful comics when it comes to Marvel. X-Men are everybody, like, you don't have to be a Marvel fan to know who the fucking X-Men are.
Here's my question though. Is it right to bring the X-Men in how they've been doing their products right now? Like the TV shows and movies and everything. Like, I wouldn't want them to bring them in like that. Like, I hope when they do bring their X-Men saga in, they put more budget in towards their TV shows and everything. Because, I mean, we'd only assume they'd have to be getting TV shows and movies and everything, right?
The Fox X-Men? Yeah. I don't believe so. No. I don't think he's giving them, from the things I've read, I don't think he's giving them a TV show or anything like that. They're just going to show up in certain important projects, from my understanding. And we don't know how they're going to look right now, if they're going to look like exactly the way they looked, or if he's going to go with a more comic accurate look for them. Not sure. But yeah, that means Storm's Halle Berry is coming back. That means, not just the Fox X-Men, not just the original Fox X-Men. We're even talking about McAvoy and all of them, like Fassbender and Jennifer Mystique.
Oh,
Hunger Games.
Jennifer Lawrence.
No. Jennifer Lawrence. That group also coming back. So I don't know. I think, but again, if you're talking fatigue, and Feige knows this. Now before I end this conversation, Feige knows this. Feige knows that, and I'm sure he's been thinking about this shit for a long time. For everybody's been like, why aren't we getting the X-Men? Why haven't we gotten the X-Men yet? Because Feige has a plan for the X-Men. Like, he has a way that he specifically wants to bring the X-Men in. That is not just going to be jaw-dropping for us, but it's going to be familiar for fans, for regular MCU fans to get their asses in the seats and be like, hey, I know who that is. I remember him in that, and I remember, like, the same way with Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire. So I think that it's I think the fatigue is very real. As I said, I can take this break until February.
Yeah, we're gonna see the special from Guardians of the Galaxy, but I can take the break until February from Marvel, from viewing anything Marvel. But that's my thoughts. That's Q's thoughts. But as always, question is for you guys. Let us know down below in the comments what you guys are thinking. Are you thinking like, hey, I am fatigued? I saw a lot of you guys in the chat saying I'm fatigued with Marvel and things like that. And is it a fatigue in the projects coming out, or I also saw in the comments somebody saying I'm not so much fatigued with the projects. I'm fatigued with being let down. Is that more of your approach on it? Are you just sick of being let down by Marvel projects? Are you sick of them putting emphasis on quantity over quality? So let us know down below in the comments what you guys are thinking.